What's up guys, Duke here, and this is an Awilish guide. In case you want to question my qualifications to make such a guide, here's a quick overview of my stats with Awilish. I think this should settle that. And with that said, let's jump right into the basics of this character. This guide will not cover the in-depth advanced stuff, and it's basically a setup for the advanced guide that I'm gonna make soon. Therefore, if you've been playing Awilish for a long time, this is probably not for you. This is to learn the character, to know the right starting build, to use your ability chains properly, and be able to successfully play Awilish in a normal game. To start this off, let's look at Summon Suku. Awilish summons her mount Suku, which she then stays on until she either leaps off or cancels the ability. While side-strafing on Suku, Awilish's movement speed is slowed, as you can see here. While walking forward or backward, her movement speed is increased. Leveling the ability only increases the damage dealt by the leap, which is why this ability is usually leveled last. While on Suku, try not to sidestep but turn the camera instead. If you right-click to cancel Suku, you can jump back onto Suku at any point. This is very helpful for engages and should be utilized as often as possible, because you can still get the free extra movement speed without having to waste the cooldown. Feather Step is Awilish's bread and butter skill. Not only does it deal massive damage, it also roots and cripples the enemy. Depending on which auto attack chain hit you use Feather Step on, the damage will be different. Ideally, you want to use it on the second hit when you get the white AoE radius indication, because that's when you deal double damage, like here. During Feather Step, you won't take damage from incoming attacks. Moonlight Charge, which you usually max third, is a ranged attack that deals decent amounts of damage. However, when you hit the enemy from behind, he will be knocked up. The range is fairly wide, as you can see here. It's actually 70 feet, so you can hit enemies from very far away if they don't expect it. Awilish's ultimate, Gravity Surge, does two things. On one hand, it deals a lot of damage when you pull an enemy from the air after this enemy has been knocked up. On the other hand, whenever you activate it, be it while an enemy is on the ground or in the air, you get an attack speed and physical power steroid. Additionally, you're immune to roots, slows, and knockbacks during the duration, which lasts for 6 seconds. Also, be aware that this ability can pull from both leaps and knockups, so as you saw in this clip right there, sometimes it's worth waiting with a pull until the enemy leaps and not using it on the immediate knockup. Initiative is an interesting ability because it requires you to hit from out of combat before your enemy does in order to get a power increase. This also means that leaping in can sometimes be good, or even buying Blink can help you, just in order to keep your passive up. To see how strong initiative is, check this out. This is a clip of me attacking Rabot with a semi-defensive build with initiative. This is a clip of me attacking him with a full damage build with no initiative. As you can see, even with a semi-defensive build, I deal more damage to Ra in a short amount of time with initiative. This quick clip shows how easy it is to lose initiative. You see, just an archer hitting me is enough to lose the initiative passive and let the extra power go to waste. Let's move on to the leveling order. Your first ability should always be Feather Step. Awilish can box very well at early levels, so there's no reason to level anything else. On level 2, the choice of leveling depends on your mid laner. Need to help clearing? Level 3. Need to contest mids? Level 1. Afterwards, maximize your 2, then your ultimate, and just try to level up your 2 Feather Step as much as possible. One thing that is important to note, you can skip the point at level 8. On level 9, you can then put a point into Feather Step and your ultimate, which effectively gives you more damage in most situations. Sometimes, however, it's worth leveling Moonlight Charge instead. Afterwards, just try to max your ult whenever possible, then Moonlight Charge, and last Summon Suku, as all you're going to use it for is escapes and sometimes engaging, but then the rest of your damage is more relevant. Moving on to builds, here's one of the most basic and effective builds for Awilish. Start with Bumbath Mask unless you're playing solo lane, in that case start with Bluestone Pendant. Then Warrior Tabi, Jotun's Wrath, and Stone Cutting Sword as the core items. Genji's Guard afterwards to get some magical protection and extra CDR. Titan's Bane, and finish it off with a Winged Blade for some extra defense. This is a core option that will almost always work. I'm throwing a bunch of options in here that you can check out just by stopping the video at any point that are also easily possible and almost always work. There are more items than this, but it's too much to cover this in a beginner's guide, and I will leave that for the advanced guide. A little word on Transcendence. It can be good if you need the extra mana. Don't build it for damage, but if you think you need the extra mana to play well, or if you're playing Awilish in solo lane, Trends is okay. Later on, you should probably switch to something else. I'm going to show you some combos that you can do with Awilish. There's obviously always the option to leap in first, but I would recommend against it. Cancel your leap instead. Option 1, Feather Step into Moonlight Charge. Feather Step your target first and then Moonlight Charge them right when you jump behind them. This can even be used to channel your ult right after. The same combo can be used with a leap, but it increases the chance of not getting out afterwards, which is not what you really want. Moonlight Charge can also be used as a gap closer when your ultimate is not available. In that case, you use Moonlight Charge in order to connect your Feather Step afterwards. Be aware that when you use Moonlight Charge on a target, it counts as a hit and you can Feather Step, but you still need to hit twice in order to deal the double damage. When it comes to Awilish's playstyle, don't be afraid to play aggressive early. I almost always start her with a red potion because there's absolutely no reason not to. She can aggress so hard early on that there are hardly any other junglers that can even compete with her, except for maybe Thor and Thanatos. But even against those, you're better off with a red pot because you have the potential to kill someone early, especially the mid laners. Also, make use of Suku a lot. You can follow rotations much quicker if you jump on Suku, even if it costs a little bit of mana. That shouldn't really matter all too much. However, consider to buy some blue or mana potions along with your wards in order to be able to rotate faster and not constantly be out of mana. In a knock-up team, Awilish stays completely relevant all game long. If the enemy team only has leaps or you don't have any knock-ups in general aside of Awilish's own, you may be in some trouble when the enemy gets a lead. Simply because you can't just pull them anymore, as they will constantly be facing you and pushing you into towers. In that case, try and play sneaky and defensive, try to find some niche to go in and potentially get a kill on someone before they even know what's going on. Awilish's teamfight isn't necessarily completely weak because she has some AoE damage and a little bit of poke, but she's not the greatest teamfighter compared to other assassins. She counters some characters very well. For example, if the enemy has a Bacchus that has to initiate, she can just ult him every time and basically ruin his game plan. But she can also struggle in teamfights if the enemy comp doesn't leap much and you don't have many knockups. So all in all, play Awilish very aggressive early and then transition to a more cautious style of play. Make sure to clear camps in between because it's very easy. And if you play her in solo, just make sure to get some extra sustain, maybe with Transcendence, and also consider Bluestone for the extra poke. And that should basically be it for the starter information on Awilish. Everything else, a lot more information will be covered in the advanced guide, which should be coming up soon. It will be linked right here. Thank you guys for watching. Duke Sloth, out.